Empty the chamber on him. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order. Panda Watch is over. Davison Igbinosun is now officially a Buckeye. What a turn of events. What a great weekend. What a great job by Ryan Day, Mark Pantoni, Tim Walton, Jim Knowles, everybody associated with this. This was a dogfight between us, Michigan, UCLA. Obviously, you're always leery of SEC schools with the NIL stuff. But to get this kid, a 6'3" corner, who is a freshman All-American, played really well at Ole Miss, is something to be exceptionally excited about. I am very excited about this kid. Tall, lanky corner again. And the best part is like I said a couple nights ago, I feel like this is the 4th podcast I've done on this kid. He is going to be here for 2 more years minimum. He is only a true freshman. He'll be a true sophomore this year. Will be on campus very soon. They got to get him assimilated into the weight room, into 6 a.m.s. It's kind of like almost like NFL free agency, the way they do these visits and how late this one was with the team already working out. But yeah, super excited about this kid. He's at the ultimate position of need on the 2023 Buckeyes. So congratulations to the team. You just got a lot better at the biggest position of need on the team. So with that being said, as always, thank you guys so much. We just hit a new benchmark. Adding subscribers like crazy. Thank you guys so much. If you enjoy this content, please click like on the video. Also click subscribe. If you enjoy our live shows, which you're doing very frequently now, you want to click on that alert bell. You'll get a little alert every time we go live, which can literally be at any time. If there is some breaking news, we will go live middle of the day, whenever. Generally, we're doing it at night. We have a blast hanging out with you guys. Thank you guys for all that you add to this show. Your questions are fantastic. They really are a huge part of this program, and it's something that we're very grateful for you guys for tuning into. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys as always. That being said, time to bring in my man, Nevada Buck. Nevada, what was your initial reaction when Panda Watch ended today and our boy became an Ohio State Buckeye after we did 3 straight podcasts and we broke down his steak dinner at its official visit?
I'm just I'm so happy. I mean, this was a big one. When he first came on the scene, I really thought that Ohio State's chances were really, really low. Next to nothing. But you have to kind of stand in there, take your swings. Ohio State put Tim Walton on point on this, and he delivered. I mean, this was a big one. This was a big one, as you said, at a position of need. Sometimes you bring guys in and they're going to be part of a rotation, and they'll have impact, but it'll be muted somewhat because they'll only be out there every few plays or every other possession or whatever it might be. I mean, this guy is a starter day one immediately, and it is an upgrade over anybody on your team. So it's just a huge, enormous get, a 2-year player in the portal, which are exceedingly rare. And boy, like I said, we were starting, we wanted to kind of keep the excitement under control, given some of the missteps that we've had with ones where we hadn't quite been able to get him over the finish line. But this guy got over the finish line. Props to Ohio State. Props to Tim Walton. And I'm telling you, Ohio State 2023, I've been saying it for a while. I've been one of the lone voices along with you there, Mr. Barton, but saying it's going to be a much better team than 2022. And with this addition, it's a much better team than it was in 2022. And could not be more excited about the season. Cannot wait for spring ball. But this was this was like getting a 6-star recruit, maybe a 7-star recruit, because you're going to get 2 premier years out of them. And you get a 5-star, and you're not even sure if the kid will ever play. This is the kid who's going to star for you for the next 2 seasons. He played big boy football at the SEC down in Ole Miss and was a freshman All-American. And he's a stud. And it was very lucky that we got him. It was very lucky that they let Partridge go, who was his recruiter, former head coach at Paramus Catholic in New Jersey. And Ohio State's the benefactor. So big day. Panda Watch is over. Rejoicing throughout the land, and I'm very excited.
How much of it is due to the fact that we did break down the steak dinner they had at Hyde Park? the amount of butter that they put on his steak and the flaming banana Foster's dessert. Do you think that that played a major role in getting the panda into the fold?
Yeah, well, I clearly think that that was. I mean, we haven't really got one of these guys before we did one of those things, and now we do the breakdown, and the guy commits. So I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that probably pushed him over the edge, and man, butter makes everything better, and it certainly made this recruiting story better. So big win for Ohio State.
Especially dramatically overpriced butter, like at Hyde Park, where they throw like an ounce of truffle oil in it. And it costs like $10 a slab. Fantastic promo there for Hyde Park Steakhouse. Those of you on YouTube, we were just letting his highlight film roll. Played both ways. Obviously, you see him at running back. You see the agility, change of direction. A lot of things to like. And again, he's a big dude. He's 6'3". So I mean, we don't have a lot of 6'3" corners walking around. That's great for Big Ten football, cold weather football, tackling. You know, you can't get enough big corners. You can't get enough corners, period, in modern college football. J.K. Johnson took off, went to LSU. Jordan Hancock was dinged up all last year. Denzel Burke obviously has a lot of work to do. I think that that room is as much of a is in a blender right now, and I think that a lot of these guys, they've got some soul searching to do to be better, and I think Tim Walton took a huge step forward by bringing this cat in. This is a huge get by him. He's been somewhat maligned just because when you coach certain positions at Ohio State, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to be more maligned than others. Like coaching corners, where you're just kind of out there and you get scorched a couple times, man. The player is going to get killed and the coach is going to get killed. It's like coaching offensive line. Like, I mean, pretty much every O-line coach in the history of Ohio State has always been hated. Being a coordinator, it's just kind of what it is, So it's always interesting to see that. But kudos to Tim Walton. This is a huge get. This is the biggest position of need, the position that Nevada and I were the most worried about going into 2023 was corners, and locking down a kid that has proven that he can play big time college football. This guy played in the SEC as a true freshman out there versus really good wide receivers, a lot of man coverage. That to me is like Nevada said, it's a 6 or 7 star receiver. If you have a kid that is a 5-star in high school, he hasn't shown that he can play in college yet. Like I played with some really talented guys that had gaudy rate. Like Darius Hiley, I think was a 5-star. Dante Whitner was a 5-star. Dante obviously was the 8th pick in the draft. Darius never played it down at Ohio State, and he was a guy that when they signed him, they thought this is the next Deion Sanders or the next superstar two-way player, and never played it down. So, a guy like this who's proven he can play in the SEC, coming to the Big Ten, I can't imagine he's not a day one starter. Nevada, your thoughts on that? How do you manage, say, Jordan Hancock? If you have Denzel Burke, who's basically been a 2-year starter already going into year 3, and then you have Jordan Hancock, who's the guy who probably in pencil very lightly was drawn as the number 2 corner. How do you manage Jordan Hancock when you go out and get a kid like this who's a formidable guy? And again, mind you, at corner, there's generally a pretty decent rotation of guys playing. But how do you manage that when you bring in a freshman All-American versus a kid that really was dinged up and didn't play much last year, who has really gaudy potential?
Well, I think you just define the challenge of bringing in guys in the transfer / portal era. How does it affect the room? How does it affect the culture? Obviously on one hand, what you're selling guys is, look, best guys are going to play. You're always in a competition at Ohio State. Iron sharpens iron. We play a deep rotation. We're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 guys going to go out there. Nothing's guaranteed. If he's not playing well, he'll sit. Blah blah blah. But there are culture issues that kind of come along with that, and it's a risk. And so I think that's why you've got to, pick your spots and take your risks accordingly. And this is one where it just, you have to take it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's kind of like a Justin Fields type of thing where you've got a guy who's a transcendent talent. You do worry about how it's going to upset guys in the room, but at the end of the day, you got to take your shot. And Ohio State shot their shot and really improve the defense. It's basically it's adding another starter to the room because he started at Ole Miss, so that certainly would count as the starter at Ohio State. So Now you've got a defense that's got 8, 9 starters back from a unit that had made some really solid improvements despite what some of the pundits are saying about it. But boy, big move for Jordan Hancock. It's just going to be, hey, just be better, beat them out, be better, get your playing time. There's multiple corner spots in the field, and there's lots going to be going around for lots of guys. So just be better, and hopefully it serves as an inspiration to them that they have to work extra hard because, look, Ohio State's not going to rest on their laurels. They're going to constantly be trying to improve their team, and that they certainly improved their team a lot today.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the way you have to treat it, and I think something that is really helpful for a guy like Tim Walton and a guy like Ryan Day is when you've coached in the NFL and you've been in the NFL, this is kind of the normal. Like, I mean, you can be a position group room one day and then, somebody new shows up. And granted, there's varying kind of ways guys have to deal with the new guy that shows up because, if it's some top tier free agent, then guess what? Like, he's going to start day one and it is what it is. And that's kind of what this is. Or is he a middle tier guy, low tier guy, and he's just fighting for a roster spot or fighting for rotation spot or his practice squad spot, whatever. But this is, the modern transfer portal is really a great way for these guys to prepare for the NFL because this is how it is. I mean, I'm telling you, like when I was, in the league and fighting for a roster spot every day, I mean, there's guys that are showing up and they're trying out and they're cutting guys every day. And it's just kind of like the bottom of the roster, if you're either in season or even if you're in camp and it's an 80-man roster, the bottom of the roster is constantly getting churned. And that's a word that GMs like to use is the word churn, where they're constantly bringing guys in, evaluating them, giving them a couple weeks on the roster or in the offseason roster to see if they can play, if they can do anything. And that's kind of where we're at. I mean, this is a kid that he might force a guy out the door potentially, after spring ball, might push a guy down the depth chart. And again, that's fine because I think that the talent in that room has gone up with him being in there. So it's always fascinating when you do these things. I think that, we went after some tackles that I think, were good to, above average players, but there wasn't like a stalwart superstar tackle. Like, I don't know how many people have watched the Senior Bowl coverage from today, but DeJuan Jones is likely going to be a top 60 pick now. I mean, he could be at the back of the first round after how dominant he was in day one of Senior Bowl practice, which again, that's one practice, a lot of superlatives, but I mean, he was that good. I mean, he went against Isaiah Foskey, who's a projected first round pick defensive end from Notre Dame. He saw him during the season, and he just absolutely dominated him, put him on the ground in pass pro, threw him on the ground in run blocking. There's a kid named Andre Carter Jr., who's from Army. He's a projected first-round pick, maybe second-round pick. DeJuan just simply reached him and pancaked him. Like, DeJuan has very rare ability and traits, and honestly, as weird as it's going to be, and people are going to roll their eyes at this, but credit to Greg Studwara. Greg Studwara took that kid as a 3-star project, and I know people, they hate taking projects, but guess what? Some of these projects turn into DeJuan Jones. Some of them turn into Thayer Munford. So that's kind of, why they call you coach and why they call Mickey Marotti strength coach, because if you have a great coach, like Stud was and Mick was and Justin Fry is, sometimes you got to take some of these big bodies and you got to reshape them and you got to tone them up and tighten them up and refine their technique and make them fitter and meaner and pass blocking and run blocking machines. And that's what happened with DeJuan. Like, DeJuan and Paris are probably, they potentially, not potentially, they will be the highest drafted tandem of tackles in Ohio State history if you combine the draft position of the two of them and divide by 2, because we've never had 2 tackles of this magnitude enter. Last year, obviously, we had Nick and Thayer. Thayer had a lot of injury issues, went in the 7th round, probably should have went in the 3rd round. Nick Petit probably should have went first round, but went mid-round as well. But, Paris will probably go top 10, and DeJuan might sneak into the back end of the first round because, his pass protection with his arm length is it's a problem. But yeah, Nevada, we offered another Ohio kid, Mark Nave, out of Toledo Central Catholic. We're going to break his film down tomorrow. He's a huge kid. He's 6'5", 315. They won the state championship. They actually beat Akron Hoban. So it's a really good program. He's a beast, the kid. Your thoughts on Justin Fry really putting the fence down around the state of Ohio when it comes to offensive linemen? Because this is another Ohio kid. We're likely to get him. He's a 2024. But your thoughts on that?
Well, first I want to go back to one thing with Dewan having his performance today and the accolades and kind of moving up the depth chart and certainly on the draft boards. Has there ever been a worse take than we didn't have talent in the OSU offensive line room? I mean, is that the worst take of all time?
No,
I mean,
the four tackle thing is the worst take of all time, because the four tackle thing is, and that goes hand in hand with we have no talent, because the whole reason we played four tackles is because we had to get DeWand on the field, because DeWand was going to transfer to the Florida Gators and he would have started for them and he would have been a first round pick for them. So Thayer Munford did the most selfless thing in the history of Ohio State University, not just Ohio State football, the entire university, because he decided to go from being a first team All-American left tackle to being a first team All-American left guard, and Nick switched sides. And then, Paris, who's 6'7", had to learn how to play guard, which he never played in his life. And then, so also you could fit DeWand into the puzzle piece. And, so again, like the fact that someone could ever say that there wasn't talent in the room, the 2020 offensive line room, if you take that entire room, you have, and especially if you count up through preseason when Harry Miller was the starting center, that is the most talented room in Ohio State history, and it's not even close. And if you add up the star rankings, the number of 5 stars on that O-line, it's almost sickening how talented that line was. But go ahead, you can finish your thought. But I'm telling you, there are stupid people on this media beat and circuit that push really stupid narratives. And the fact that people say, oh, we played 4 tackles. Oh, the O-line wasn't talented. I'm like, in what universe? I mean, we're going to have 2 first-round picks, and Nick Petit made all-rookie team, and Luke Whippler is going to get drafted, and that's after 2 tackles left and transferred out, and Harry Miller had to retire. I mean, God, if we had those 3 guys, it's not even, I mean, it's not a question anyways. But, I mean, with the amount of people that took off, again, there are really stupid takes and narratives. And again, it just illuminates how stupid some of the people are that cover Ohio State by pushing that, because it's just like, it's impossible to defend. It really is. But go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, yeah, no, I was just going through my mind. I'm like, man, when you had that line with Nick Petit, first round pick, or to start for the Titans, Thayer Munford for the Raiders, Whippler's going to go draft pick, Paris Johnson's going to be a top 10 pick, DeWan Jones probably the first round pick. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, so much talent on the offensive line room. And all I've heard for the past 5, 6, 8, 10 years, we don't have any talent. We're not recruiting well. We don't know. It's terrible. And I'm just like, that is just, it's got to go in the Hall of Fame of bad takes. Is we don't have talent in the offensive line room. But anyway, back to the question about these recent offers to the Ohio kids. Look, I love the Ohio linemen. I've always loved the Ohio linemen. Said it many times, but we won a national championship in 2015, which seems like 1,000 years ago, with 5 randos from Ohio. So yeah, I'll take it all day, every day. I think Justin Fry is doing the right thing. I think we're getting in on kids a little bit earlier, trying to find his kids that he wants, and we're going to be just fine. The offensive line is going to be just fine. The offensive line this year is going to be fine. The offensive line next year is going to be fine. The offensive line the year after that is going to be fine. I think we're in really good shape. And if there was any one position group more so than wide receiver or quarterback or defensive line or defensive that you want to get the kids from Ohio, it'd be the offensive line, and I'm okay with it. It's the one. I think it's the one group that you don't have to go national. You can go national. We've done well with Whippler and with Jones and with Nick Petit and with Donnie. I mean, we've got kids in DeWan from Indiana. We've got kids from Ohio State. But I'm okay with putting a fence around Ohio. I think it's important, and I think that's how you build a great offensive line. And I think Justin Fry's doing all the right things.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing about Justin is Justin's smart enough to also realize that, look, when you play and coach at Ohio State, like when you coach at Ohio State, you're Justin, you have to find the combination that is the best 5 guys on the field. And that's what Stud did. I mean, when he played Paris, I mean, and the thing I always tell people, I'm like, look, of all the tackles that have ever lived, Jonathan Ogden is in the conversation to be the best left tackle in the history of football. UCLA shot putter, 6'9", Olympic shot putter, one of the greatest athletes that's ever lived. And his rookie year in the National Football League, when he was a top 5 pick for the Baltimore Ravens, he played guard, and he was 6'9", 350 pounds. So he's not, you don't have to be 6'3" and a little sawed off dude. He's the greatest left tackle that's probably ever played. And he played guard his rookie year. Trent Williams in a game played guard. And you're like, how could Trent Williams ever play guard? He's the best tackle in the NFL because that was the best combination. And they needed him to. You know, other guy got hurt. There's a swing tackle back. Trent Williams, who never played guard in his entire life, played guard. So sometimes, like, as stupid as people are that don't understand offensive line play, like, sometimes you just got to do what's best for the team. Again, Thayer Munford has been a tackle his entire life. He's a tackle in the NFL right now. Guess what? He took one for the team, played left guard. Didn't play it that great. He's okay at it. But do you bench him? No, he's a 4-year starter. He came back for his 5th year to be a captain. Do you bench Paris Johnson, who's like literally like if he's a horse, he's Secretariat. So do you, if you got to pick a plow horse and you say, hey, you got to plow this field, you want the plow horse or you want Secretariat? I'm like, give me Secretariat. I'll just try it out and see if it works. If not, I'll go get the plow horse, put him in. And the funny thing is, Paris was second team All Big Ten as a true sophomore playing guard, which is incredible. It's really hard to do. And then, you see what DeJuan's doing. I mean, DeJuan is like, that kid is so far from a finished product. He's so raw, and NFL teams and coaches just drooling over a kid like that. 6'8", longest arms in history. He's going to keep getting into better and better shape. And he's just an absolute monster to go against if you get a pass rush against him. Because if he clamps on you, you're done. You're not getting around DeJuan. And again, I think he's got a lot of upside. I still think he's extremely raw. And I think he's a guy that, he'll go first round and he could end up being a Pro Bowler. Like, again, his comparison is Orlando Brown Jr., who's been to like 4 Pro Bowls now. He's got to get, if the Chiefs don't franchise tag him, he's going to sign for $100 million this offseason. He played at Oklahoma, had the worst combine in history, ran like a 7-second 40. And DeJuan will scorch all of Orlando Brown Jr.'s numbers, but they're the same measurables. They're both 6'8". They're both 350 pounds, 360, whatever. I think DeJuan weighed in at 359. So you just can't get around a guy like that. Gonna take some of you guys' questions. Again, I'm just really excited. This is a great day. It's a huge day on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys aren't on our board was going bonkers because of the new commitments, just kind of piecing together where a guy's gonna fit. We got the 2 corners with Denzel, and then obviously Davison Igbinosun. And again, it's funny, I keep remembering how to spell his name because of Etienne Sabino, who we used to always call Bino, IG Bino, then SUN. So it's super easy. And then
Kirk, I got to correct you. You mispronounced somebody's name earlier. You were talking about the greatest left tackle that ever played, and you mispronounced you mispronounced Orlando Pace. And I don't know how you missed that. It's Pace, not Ogden. That's how it is. Big O. If you're listening, I think Orlando's. I want to apologize, Orlando. I'm sorry, Orlando. I really am sorry.
He's probably in the top 5, and I love Orlando Pace, but I'm just being. Just going on the analytics of Pro Bowls, All Pro voting, first team all. And again, it was a travesty that Orlando Pace wasn't a first team Hall of Famer in Canton, but Walter Jones was, Ogden was, and that was like the greatest era of tackles in the NFL. It's like when they had Ogden, Pace, Baselli, Willie Roaf. That was the greatest era in history for NFL tackles, and. But Orlando, for whatever reason, wasn't a first teamer, so I mean, he didn't make the NFL 100-year team. So, and again, I'm not dogging Orlando Pace. I think Orlando Pace is the greatest Ohio State player in history. I think he's better than Hopalong Cassidy or Archie or anybody else. But, when you get down to like the nitty gritty, you really got to get down to like the fine tooth, statistics, how many Pro Bowls, how many consecutive starts, like all that jazz. So
now you're insulting Chick Harley. Now you're insulting the memory of Chick Harley. Kurt, Where's it going to end today, man? Where's it
Oh,
going to end?
why? Because I say Orlando's better than Chick Harley. I don't think that's that hot of a take. Like if I had to go pick if I was in the Sandlot and I said I could pick Chick Harley or Orlando in their prime, I'm taking Orlando any day of the week.
I'm going to stick Fields one. I'm going to stick Fields one on you tomorrow. We're going to do
Oh
some
God,
Chick
I
Harley.
can't wait. Chick Harley, he's gonna destroy me. He'll go hop along Cassidy, and he'll say Chuck Surrey because Chuck Surrey got a Bronze Star, in the World War, so Orlando can't compete with that. I mean, Fields one will kill me. I mean, that's just what he does. And again, I'll eat my crow, but if you have me vote, I'm still putting Orlando number one because again, he was 3-and-out. He went number one overall in the draft. I mean, that's the best career you can possibly have, So. And then he was a Pro Bowler, greatest show on turf, Super Bowl rings, all of it. I love it. That's so funny. Dave Rice, Nevada, what was your first dog? This is a great question.
My first dog?
Yeah. This is a random question from Dave Rice. He's on here every night, so he gets to ask a question.
My first dog, I think my first dog is dead. He's been dead for a long time. I think it was like a little cocker spaniel named Mr. Wilson that used to tinkle whenever I'd rub his belly, and he did that nervous pee thing where he'd pee all over the floor. So
I thought you were gonna say you had a Bernese Mountain Dog named Orlando Pace, and I love him.
No,
and he's unstoppable, and
he was named Mr. Wilson in honor of Chick Harley.
His name Mr. Wilson in honor of Kevin Wilson.
Exactly.
We're getting reports Demetrius Stanley passed. That's sad.
What?
Really sad.
No.
That's a. I don't know if that's. I haven't seen that. I wouldn't doubt it. But somebody put that in the chat. So if that happened, and again, I'm not claiming that because I don't know. I'm not verifying that. But if that happened.
Yeah, you don't want to biddle that one, man.
I'm not doing that. But if that did happen, that's really sad. But I have no verification of that. But it's just in the chat. Yeah, all right, so Nevada, now that the secondary, we had a freshman All-American, give me your projection for the secondary. Go corner one, corner two, then go bandit, which is the short side boundary safety. Then you've got the free safety, and then you've got your beloved nickel safety. You have the bandit, the adjuster, and the nickel. So who are you putting where if you are Perry Eliano and Jim Knowles and you're eating your vegan souffle right now, drawing up your depth chart?
Well, I mean, you clearly, you've got Panda Boy here as number one cornerback, and you've got Denzel Burke as your number two, and then your three safeties. I'm going with Ransom and Proctor, and I mean, I'm going to go out there and I'm probably OSU CB9 is probably going to yell at me, but I'm going to try to find a way to get Sonny Styles on the field in some way, shape, or form, just because I just don't think you can leave him off the field. And I'm going to go with that and reserve the right to change my mind if Kai Stokes starts balling out or something like that. But I'm going with my modern day Legion of Boom, putting my Cam Chancellors out there and letting the chips fall where they may.
What about Jihad Carter, the kid from
Syracuse? I know he's got to find a place out there too. I know it's just we've got a lot of options, man. We got a lot of options. I think he's in the mix. Maybe he's in the mix for your third corner, or maybe you come up with another word. Maybe we need to come up with like another name so people think that the defense is like super exotic instead of like just the nickel defense, and we'll call it like the adjuster technician Panda role or something like that, and he'll play that. He'll be a starter in that position. So it's like a fourth safety.
What if we call it the Orlando Pace?
Yeah, the Chick Harley. We'll call it the Chick Harley. Chick Harley played both ways.
Oh, well, that makes him better than Orlando for sure. Then.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
I mean, if you go both ways, I think you gotta play Sonny. Like I think with Sonny, man, it is just like I don't know. Yeah, but it's.
Styles. You got to get Styles in the field. I mean, if he's sitting again, I just that's just not going to work. I mean, he's so supremely talented. But yeah, Ohio State's going to have to find those combinations. They got lots of options now, and we didn't really look that way a little bit ago. You get Carter and Davison in the portal. You've added two live bodies to the mix, and that's the difference between having some depth and not having some depth. So, like I said, big time kudos to Ohio State. Big time kudos to Tim Walton, who's a guy who thinks been under a little bit of fire, and probably a little bit more fire than people know. But I think he might have really saved it on this one, and really did some work. So big time kudos to him.
Guys, I switched the film to Jihad Carter because we've watched a lot of the Panda. David said Igbinosun is going to be known as the Panda from now on because we were on Panda Watch. We did 4 straight days of, is he committed yet? Is he here yet? What kind of butter's on the steak? And it actually worked. So we've never done like a food review of the official visit, but we did it, and he committed. So in the chat, I'm just asking you guys, do we need to do that to help up the ante and secure the commitments going forward on these portal guys? Because up until him, we got Jihad, but we were about 1 for like 50, I think, so far on portal kids. So, we do 1 food review and the kid commits. So I don't think that is a coincidence. Keep the questions coming. Again, we've got this is a great day. We get these corners, but I think Sonny South has to play. You got to figure out if he can play nickel. I mean, the problem is he's so big. Like, is he gonna be able to stay, a safety? Then because when you have Tommy and Steele coming back, it's like there's not a lot of room at the end. Do you rotate guys in more with CJ Hicks, Gabe Powers? Does Reed Carrico shift to offense? Which, if I was Reed, I would say, look, I want to be Mitch Rossi. Let me do the Mitch Rossi role and play, 50 snaps a game like Mitch did. Because again, I'd rather play than not play. Again, it's kind of like a reverse Zach Bourne, where Zach Bourne went from, being a fullback that literally was phased out of Urban Meyer's offense because, I was in the room and we used to try to force feed Zach reps as like the wing back tight end, and it just was a square peg in a round hole because Zach was a traditional fullback, fantastic at blocking ISO, playing special teams. It was kind of like a Spartan because he would get sad if he got pulled out of a game because he didn't get to play 80 plays. He's like a different cat. Like, he wants to run down on every kickoff, every punt, go play. If you're a fullback and we run ISO as much as you do with Tress, like, that is about as vicious of a position as you can be because you're literally running from 6 yards deep right at the middle linebacker. And I remember when we played Chris Borland from Wisconsin, and those guys ran into each other about 20 times. And I was like, I don't even know. I literally said, I don't even know how you can walk, let alone remember your name. Because, these are violent hits, So, and the funny thing about Zach is he, like, loved it. That was, like, his favorite thing in the world is, like, just running into Borland over and over again. Part of it is because I said before the game, I was like, look, can you go over to their locker room and give him your jersey and we'll take him because he's really good. And he like, oh, Bart, F you, whatever, Bart. Let's like say stupid stuff like that to Zach to get him jazzed up before the game. But when Urban came in, they wanted a Vanette, they wanted a Jeff Hireman type body for that spot, like a traditional tight end. And Zach was kind of being phased out. And then all of a sudden, when Luke Fickell came over and grabbed him and moved him over to play defense, he was like, a pig in, I can't swear on this, but like a pig in poo. So he was so excited to actually get to play and not watch the whole game. And, and he wasn't real good against Indiana. We gave up 49 points against the Hoosiers. And I think Urban Meyer's about ready to murder everybody on the staff after that game. But he got better and he helped us beat Michigan. And obviously he got that photo that's on every dumpster in Columbus now, which is great. And he's made a great life out of it. So I think that, that'll be something interesting with Reed to see, does he want to switch over to that tight end room? Because I think that if I'm him, I'm volunteering because otherwise you're sitting behind at least Tommy and Storm, or not Storm, excuse me, Tommy and Steele. And then you've got Cody Simon, who'd start for probably every team in the country except for us. And then you've got CJ Hicks, Gabe Powers. That was a loaded up room now. And then, if Sonny Styles starts dabbling over there, then it's super loaded up. So it'll be real interesting to see what they do with him, and if he decides to play offense. Keep the questions
Now,
coming. Go
now,
ahead.
now, Mr. Barton, I've got a question for you, because this was posed to me last night over cocktails, and I've got a decent Rams contact who you and I've talked about a few times, and we were talking about, the topic came up about Ohio State and the lack of turnovers, particularly from the cornerbacks this year, and how that was kind of an outlier, not only for the cornerback position but for the entire defense. And the question that was asked, and I didn't really know the answer to this, and I really wanted to kind of get your opinion on this, but this NFL guy asked me, he goes, well, the big question is, are they taught to watch the quarterback, or are they taught to watch the receiver? And I hadn't really thought about that, you know what I'm saying? But I thought it was a really interesting distinction in terms of, like, how is Ohio State, where are they teaching their technique in terms of, he goes, because if you're watching the quarterback more, you're more apt to jump routes, read their eyes, be in a position to get interceptions, but then you may, have more of a propensity to give up the big play. But if you're taught to just watch the receiver, you're probably more solid on technique. You're probably better on pass defense, but you're not going to get as many turnovers. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing. And I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that as a former player, former coach. What do you think about how Ohio State does it? What do you think Ohio State's doing? And do you think it makes a difference?
Well, and let's just clarify that your Rams contact is not Orlando Pace, correct?
It is not. It is the great Orlando
I was like,
Pace.
the great, like, I'd love to say, I was out having cocktails with Orlando. I was like, what do you have, like 800 cocktails, like Andre the Giant? Like, I couldn't imagine. You get a lot of capillaries to work with. For me, it's just the classic question of, do you want to play press man or off man? And this is something that, when I was really fortunate, again, I always go back to, when I was coached and trained by Urban, we had to sit and get clinicked, not just by it wasn't just me and Ed Warner talking in line, but like Everett Withers literally went through off man coverage, press man coverage, the difference. And that's basically what you're asking. Cause like, if you're playing press man, you're not looking at the quarterback unless you want to get absolutely scorched. You're off man. You can peek at the quarterback, jump routes, get turnovers. And that's where a lot of that comes from. And again, I wish, a guy that I'm going to make a call to, I'll call Zach, because Zach's a guy that, he knows this stuff like the back of his hand, and he actually clinicked on it. And he was as good as any coach we had in terms of clinicking the different coverages and what to look for and whatever. But that's a great question. Because again, the thing is, when you're Ohio State, if you're going to play press man, that's a ballsy coverage. Because I mean, if you get, you can do that against some guys. You do that against like a real one, like you do that against Marvin, he should destroy you. I mean, some of those guys probably pray they get press man because they're going to the house. You can't do that against a guy like Devontae Adams or a guy that's got a great release, because he's going to be wide open. Even if you try to get your hands on him, he's going to be gone. So it's going to be that's a really good question. I just think that, I've always preferred press just because I think that I like agitating the receivers, not giving them a free release. I think some of these guys are just too good. If you give them a free release and you don't jam them and disrupt the timing with the quarterback, I think it's, you're just asking to get crucified. But it just depends on, and it depends on your guys. Cause if you're playing press man, like that's like Deion Sanders stuff. That's like, it's hard to do, but if you can do it, man, you're going to make a fortune in the NFL. It's like Jalen Ramsey does it. And those guys, obviously, you don't have to be like an NFL first ballot Hall of Famer to do it, but there's a risk there when you're running press man with guys that frankly aren't good enough to do it. But it's just a classic. That's a great question. I'll do some digging on that. But yeah, I think that when you have a guy who's 6'3", press man, I mean, he's got those long arms, he's strong, jack a dude up. I think it's intriguing. But no, that's a great question. I think that, whatever we did last year, obviously from a turnover perspective didn't work. And from, but I felt like, like Tim Walton, with Jalen's obviously a press man, but it just varies by team, by opponent. I think obviously something that hurts us is that our pass rushers, something that hurts our pass rushers, frankly, is that guys get rid of the ball quick. So if you're getting rid of the ball quick and you're playing off man, I mean, you're going to be getting up a lot of cheap completions generally. But it'll be real interesting to see how these guys progress, like JT and Jack, because those guys specifically, they're going into big years. They're both trying to get to double digits sack wise, and if we're playing press and you disrupt their timing and you can get to the quarterback, then that's a recipe for maybe not interceptions, but sack fumbles, and guys got to hold the ball because the receiver can't get into his route because he's getting disrupted by the corners. But it'll be fascinating to see if we change any of that up. It'll be fascinating if we play a little bit more zone. I mean, that's going to be something that people they like risky. Every defensive coordinator in the history of football, when they go to the podium the first time and talk to the media, they say, "Oh, we're going to be an attacking style defense, or we're going to be a nasty, like we're gonna be more aggressive than the last guy, and we're going to be we're going to be aggressive and blitzing they love all these like superlatives, like I'm going to blitz as soon as I get off the bus, and then we're going to blitz some more, and then we're going to blitz again, and like people love that stuff until you get gashed. That's kind of like the hard part, because nobody wants to hear, oh, we're going to play a bend but don't break defense and try to keep them in front of us. And people hate that. Like, and smart coordinators like Jim Knowles know they're going to say, oh, we're going to go for the kill. And again, as long as guys execute it, it works great. And again, against Michigan, there were a couple guys that didn't get the job done on some plays, and that's why we got gashed. But it wasn't like the calls were bad. And that's something I don't think people realize. And I think that some of the guys in the back end, frankly, could have played harder. There's some guys that were jogging to the ball that I think could have got the running back down before he went 70 yards. But that's on the coaching staff. If you're gonna have guys that don't want to play hard, then find new guys. And I think that's part of the reason why you bring in a new corner and see what he's made out of. What else? This is I would love to ask. I get Shimdy on here. Shimdy doesn't want to come on. I got Donnie Nicky's number. I got Doss. I'll think about like a good coverage guy to bring on. I mean, I think honestly Zach would know this like lockdown, but I'm a line guy. I never cared much for coverages, but that was the beauty of working with Urban, is that he didn't care. He was like, look, you're gonna be everything. Like, you have to learn everything. You got to learn coverages, releases, stuff that I didn't care about, because that was just, he wanted everybody to be on the trajectory to be a head coach. So, if you're a really good head coach, both sides of the ball, at least some ancillary knowledge of the positions that aren't your strong suit. Like Ryan Day knows enough offensive line stuff to be dangerous, but he's never going to be an O-line coach, but he's a fantastic quarterbacks coach. So you got to kind of stay well-rounded in that regard. And that was something that I'm thankful that Urban really pushed, because, you sitting through what do linebackers, the different types of tackles that Luke Fickell teaches, and a box tackle versus an angle tackle versus, eventually in 14, it turned to that rugby tackle stuff. It's always interesting to see. Nevada, that was a great question. I'm telling you, like, give your guy another Flirtini.
Yeah, well, I love the idea that Ohio State fans like you to be aggressive. So you could almost say Ohio State fans love to gamble, but they want to do it with your chips.
Oh, always. Well, that's the thing.
Wait a second. Who said that? That was the great John Cooper. John Cooper John Cooper has some great quotes, man. That was a great one. I'll never forget that one. It's like, they love to gamble, but they want to do it with your chips. Like, yeah, Coop, you're the best.
Coop is a beauty, man. I mean, I'm telling you, people that have never been able to talk to Coop, man, he's a good dude. I mean, and it's funny because he gets dragged over his Michigan record, but I mean, he's always just like such a nice guy every time I've been around him, and it's just I'll see him at the games and whatever. He's a different bird, but he's always been really cool to me. So I can't say anything bad about Coop, other than he ruined my childhood by never beating Michigan. Other than that, he's great. Yeah, God, I would love to get another Lattimore at corner. That'd be amazing. What questions do you guys have? We're grinding. We got about another 15 to go. Great show. Again, it's always a good show when we get on here and talk about a new commitment. New offers again. The kid from Toledo Central Catholic, likely to be a Buckeye, the Armstrong twins. So you kind of see this 2024 class taking shape, despite not having commitments. You can imagine a kid from Toledo Central Catholic and kids from St. Ed's. There's likely 3 commitments there, all bigger bodies, all 6'5" guys, can easily play tackle. So that's great news. As well as we restock and reload this room. Nevada, going back to the O-line room, it's always interesting because I feel like, when you take projects, like we took a couple of kids that are projects, like Trey LaRue was a kid that was clearly a project. He's lost a lot of weight. Grant Toutant project. Guys that, this is a huge spring for both those guys. If not, they easily could potentially hit the portal, or, you got to figure out what to do with guys that are going into years 3 and 4 and they haven't really contributed and they're not really on the trajectory to contribute. But if you delete those guys, I think the room's actually pretty good. And there's something, and I don't know if this is right, I got to check on this, but Josh Fryer, allegedly, I read something that says he has 3 years of eligibility left, which, I mean, that must be the COVID year. You get to year 6. But yeah, I thought Josh was going into his junior, but he might be only in his sophomore year, but I'm not sure how that works. He tore his ACL in warmups versus Michigan when we were up there in 2021. And again, I've never heard of a guy tearing his ACL in warmups, but it happened. So he was out for a while. So, last year, the fact that he was able to contribute, with a significant knee injury in November, and then by, September, he's fighting for, to be that 6th man. That shows some great, just great surgery, great rehab, great resiliency. But I'm excited to see how he looks coming into this year with a full off season where he's not just riding a stationary bike. But like your thoughts on the room, the depth, and I think that this is a big off season for Justin to get to get some really good Ohio kids, maybe get a national kid or two. But just your thoughts on the overall talent level in the O-line room.
Well, I just think, look, it's a fact. This isn't even up for debate. It's a fact that the offensive line is notoriously, difficult to project. It's also it takes the longest to develop traditionally as offensive linemen over any other position on the field. So given those 2 sets of facts, I would always be throwing a couple of projects in there because, you want to invest those, you take a lower rated kid, maybe a big kid that maybe you can try to shape his body. And here's the thing, if it doesn't work out, you process the kid out. We've talked about it. It's like playing draw poker where you keep throwing your cards in and keep getting new sets of cards. So, you've got portal flexibility, you've got roster flexibility, and you've got the potential upside of big bodies on guys that might be late bloomers. Look, nobody was rejoicing when Thayer Munford committed to Ohio State. No one wanted that kid other than Stud. No one was rejoicing when DeJuan Jones committed to Ohio State. Nobody wanted that kid other than Stud. So if Fry wants some big, potential prospects, I say bring them on. I think it's smart. I think there's nothing but upside. And again, you're not wedded, anymore. You're not wedded to kids for 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years. And I used to say it's not the kids that you miss on that kill you. It's the ones that you get that type, scholarships for 4 and 5 years and can't play that kill you. But in this transfer portal era, man, you can process your roster. So there's really, there's limited downside to that. And I think Ohio State should do it, is doing it, and we'll do it to great effect here in the future. So, I think we're in great shape.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think after spring, there'll be some hard conversations with some guys, and hey, not sure if you can play at this level. You're welcome to stick, but it'd probably be smarter to transfer. I think those kind of conversations have to happen. Like if guys are just soaking up spots, and honestly, I like that because when I played, there were guys that they kind of tapped out after year 3, or they'd be redshirt sophomores that get beat out by a younger guy, and they would just kind of soak up a roster spot for an extra 2 years. And again, it's like the old saying where, it's not the guys that you don't get that kill you, it's the guys that you do get that can't play that kill you. And we had a bunch of those on some of the teams I played on, and I wish we could have processed them out so we could try and get some guys in that wanted to hold the rope and be real contributors, as opposed to being guys that were just kind of slogging through and going through the workouts. And, I always called them the minimalists, the guys that did the absolute minimum required to stay on the team. They'd stay eligible, they wouldn't miss a workout. So you didn't have like an in to put a bullet in their head. But, and some of them were nice kids. But again, I don't need nice kids at Ohio State. I need guys that can ball and guys that are obsessed with being really good players. And some of those guys were not that, especially after they got beat out by younger guys. So I like being able to turn the room over. I like being able to kind of process guys out because, to me, playing at Ohio State, it's not it's not like an annuity. It's not something you get like forever. It's something that you get literally for, year over year that your scholarship renews. And I don't think it should have to auto renew if you're not holding the rope and doing what you need to do. And again, it's not for everybody. That's the thing about when you play there, big expectations, big pressure, a lot of money on the line, a lot of limelight on the line, a lot of fame on the line. It's a boiler. And, like I said, it's not for everybody. I mean, but again, for the guys it is for, it's well worth it. Great question, Doge Dave. Am I done with coaching? Yes. Probably coached my kids' youth football team. And that's about it. I did the coaching thing. I was Brian Hartline before Brian Hartline. I was James Laurinaitis before James Laurinaitis. I was GA, did it. Again, the funniest thing ever is that Urban Meyer was really, really angry with me when I got out of coaching. I graduated with my MBA and I was done. Looked at a couple jobs, interviewed at a couple, D1 places, but I just, my heart wasn't in it because I really like having some freedom. Like I enjoy being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, which is fun. And that's something that coaches don't have for about 9 months out of the year. They're really locked down. I know they make a ton of money, but for me, like I always I value my freedom and my time over everything. I love what I do now. I love being on BuckeyeScoop.com. I love breaking down film. I love doing these podcasts. These things are really, really great. It's a way to interact with people. I still feel like I do a lot of talking football and breaking film down, which are things I like to do, but I also don't have to go on the road for, 3 months a year and recruit kids that really don't want to see me, don't want to give me the time of day, which again, and I liked recruiting, but it's just, it's not as hard on the actual coach. It's really hard on their families, their wives, their kids. So but it's a lifestyle choice. I mean, again, it's no different than people that make sacrifices and they get deployed in the military. Obviously I'm not trying to draw parallels, but there are some jobs where people are on the road a lot and, like people that, travel for work or whatever, but I like what I do. I work from home. I work with Riker during the day. It's a great gig. So I am done with coaching. I'll coach Little League. That's about it. And it's about where you can catch me. Keep these. Oh, I love that. You could track the javelina, of course. Nevada, here's a good question. Can Ohio State flip Jaden Davis? I don't know if he's committed anywhere, so I don't know if that'd really be a flip. But your thoughts on the Jaden Davis Panda Watch as we continue forward with us?
I mean, Ohio State thinks they're in the game. I mean, Ohio State obviously had some apologizing, some splaining to do, and they did it. And I think, it's one of those things that's going to deserve watching. But I think the longer that goes on, the better the chances get. The further in the rearview mirror, the flirtations with Raiola kind of get for Jaden Davis. And I think Ohio State feels like they've made up some room on a situation that I thought was completely untenable and that they were completely out of. So I think it's going to deserve watching, and Ohio State feels like they're still in it. So we'll keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. Jaden Davis was a kid that was projected to go to Ohio State, a kid that liked Ohio State. A lot of people, when he was at camp 2 years ago, it was like he's probably going to be the guy in that 24 class. Really looked good at camp, and then the ascension of Dylan Raiola was something that was almost unbelievable. He came to a game late year. I felt like it was like the Purdue game right at the end of the season, maybe Michigan State right before we went up to Ann Arbor. Came up to a game, not a lot of fanfare. Like, I mean, it wasn't like, oh my God, number 1 overall Dylan Raiola is here. It's just kind of like a little, oh cool, the quarterback from Arizona, Dylan Raiola, his dad's in the NFL is here, and so there was like some fanfare, but nothing like. And then like over the next few months, it turned into, this supernova of hype where, Dylan ascended to be the number one player in the country. He tied like Quinn Ewers' highest rated, composite 5-star, 1,000% grade or whatever. And then, leading up to the spring game, Jaden Davis was fully intent to or expected to attend the spring game. The Rayolas weren't, and the Rayolas called up and said, "Hey, we're going to come to the game now." And so, if you're Ohio State, you're sitting there and you're like, "Well, God, we got these two quarterbacks," and there was a really strong thought that Jaden Davis was going to commit to Ohio State spring game. So there's kind of like this West Side Story showdown in the middle of the recruiting room at Ohio State where the Rayola clan's on one side and Jaden Davis' clan, and who's going to see Ryan Day first to say, "I'm committing." And then, so they basically told Jaden, "Hey, we're going to go with the other kid, and thanks, but no thanks." And then, we all know what happened with Dylan. He commits and silently commits. Then they stop recruiting all quarterbacks in that 24 class. They say that they're going to take kind of a placeholder guy in 23, which, I don't think Lincoln Keenholz is a placeholder, but, they certainly didn't go after like the top tier guys, the top 3-4 guys like Ryan Day normally does. Ryan Day's objective is the same as Urban Meyer's. He wants to get the number one quarterback in the nation every single year. But they kind of backed off because they said they were going to take a placeholder type, and they stopped recruiting 24s completely because of Dylan. And then obviously Dylan gets cold feet. Again, I think the Drake May flirtations had everything to do with that because it just lines up perfectly. And they got some making up to do. Again, it's like if you go have a shotgun wedding with a supermodel and you find out she don't like you no more and dumps you, and then you go crawl back to your girlfriend. That's kind of what it feels like. But that's just kind of is what it is, and it's I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Again, the thing about Ryan Day, as long as he's at the helm of Ohio State, I'll never worry about who the quarterback is. I don't care if we get anybody in recruiting because he'll hit the portal harder than anybody. He's always going to have a great infrastructure, great O-line, fantastic wide receivers. Like, again, if you're a 24 quarterback and you don't want to go play with Brandon Inniss and J.J. Smith, then you're probably just an idiot. So, you're going to be thrown to guys that are going to make your job very easy. And that's 90% of the battle in football is the quarterback's infrastructure. You look at Justin Fields, he's unbelievable, and he has nobody around him. And then you look at some other teams that have, like Jalen Hurts has A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, a fantastic offensive line, good tight end. Like, that makes your life a lot easier than Justin Fields throwing to a bunch of turds. So, this is a really good question, my dude YX. You're always on here too. Appreciate you. Do you think our backfield coaches teach and play coverages that conflict with nulls? I don't think so, just because there's only so many coverages you can run. I mean, everybody runs the same, 2, 4, 3, 3 buzz, 55. I mean, there's like, and there's little variations and things that teams do now, but there aren't really that many coverages you can run. I mean, we run a lot of quarter, we'll run, man free. There's only so much you can run in football.
Now,
there's not really.
Kirk, I got a question for you. When you hear guys talking, or you hear guys on the internet talking about zero press, monkey, under, flip, wide, Neptune defense, what is the first thought that comes to your mind?
I just honestly think that when you say that to an average Ohio State supporter, someone who really loves Ohio State football, they literally have no idea what you're talking about. Like, it's like you might as well be speaking in Cantonese or something.
But do they know what they're talking about when they talk about some of the stuff? When you hear
sometimes they don't. Like, I had one of the gurus. I call them the Guru Squad. They said that this team's playing a zero hole coverage. Now, cover zero literally means that every single guy is man to man. A hole player is generally a guy that is in what they call the hole, which is right in the middle of the field. So he's a hole player. Like there's a safety where there's a hole player. Like, one hole is like he's like kind of in the middle, like the middle hole of the field. And so like you really can't have zero hole. Like there's zero. Zero is literally man across the board, and there's 6 guys blitzing. 6 guys are coming at the quarterback. Cover zero. Everybody else is manned up. The 5 eligible receivers are covered man to man, and then there's 6 guys coming. So the O-line can block 5 of them, and the quarterback has to beat the 6th guy with a throw. we used to call that no deep because it literally means that there's no safety deep. So you can't run cover zero with a hole player. And so like when someone said, I mean, I said that, and it's funny. I texted Zach. I was like, Zach, is this even possible? Can you run zero hole? Because I know you can't run. Like it just makes no sense. And sometimes like like I don't like reading that stuff because I think a lot of it is just so granular and boring that most people don't get it. But when you say stuff like when someone really knows what they're talking about, then yeah, you just look like an idiot. But I think that they just bank on 99% of the population not knowing it and not questioning it because they think that, oh, well, and some of these guys, like, they never even coached. Like, I mean, where did you coach at? Or you just read a textbook that says this is what it is. So it's, like, I mean, I've literally had to like, and why do I know defensive coverages so well? Because I had to run the scout team. So I had to like tell guys how to run three buzz, quarters, cover 8, cover 6. Like, I had to run the exact coverages that we needed, for the look team. So like I was kind of like the defensive coordinator of the guys that nobody wanted, the scout team. So I'd have to give a look to, our offense every day in practice. So, you gotta know your stuff. And I was more of a front 7 guy, and our other GA was a back 7 guy, Drew Manager, who's the tight ends coach to Oregon now. So, because again, I got to get the guys up front doing the right thing, and Drew get the guys in the back end doing the right thing. But I still had to draw the cards, so I had to know what 4 and 8 and 6 and all these different coverages were. So, like, I know enough to like be dangerous. Like, I wouldn't want to be a secondary coach because I don't know the technique for the corners and safeties and that kind of thing. But like, I know offensive line play, but I know all the basics of defense essentially. So. But again, like sometimes like I read this stuff and I think that it's almost like they're just being predatory on the fact that some of these people just genuinely, they're trying to learn football, but they don't really know if what you're teaching them is real. It's like if I spoke gibberish and said that it meant something, and you're like, oh, this means that. Like, I don't know. I don't know what that really accomplishes. So, by the way, this film is Jordan Seaton. He's a left tackle. National guy we're probably going to get. He's been crystal ball to Ohio State, so I threw him on as we cycle through some of the film. But that's a good question. What you got, Nevada? Anything else to wrap this thing up? We've been going for an hour strong. These hours fly by, guys. I'm telling you guys, the great questions are great. The celebrating the corner commitment's great, but man, does time fly when we do these.
No, just a great day. Really excited. Did not want to get excited or too excited or overly excited about the prospects of Lanny Davidson, but when now that he's in the barn, it's definitely time for rejoicing, and big day for Ohio State, big day for Ohio State fans, big day for 2023. So let's get it on.
Yeah, tomorrow we will have Mark Nave Jr.'s film ready to go. We will break that down for you guys. Big tackle. Toledo Central Catholic waxed Akron Hoban, which is something I didn't see coming because Hoban's been pretty dominant, but they won the state championship in a really competitive division, so I can't wait to break down his film, and we'll see what other craziness happens tomorrow. So, again, we always appreciate you guys. Thank you. I'm going to wrap this thing up. Thank you, Nevada. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, you guys really help the show. You guys make the show as much as anybody because we love having you guys. We love having the interaction. Again, you guys really bring it. What a great day for Ohio State. Great day to be on Buckeye Scoop. We broke the commitment. We've been all over the coverage. I mean, it's been like 4 days of breaking his film down, and just glad that he's here. It's a guy that we really needed. It's a guy at a position that we needed, and big time upside for the guy. And it's going to be fantastic to see him in the scarlet and gray this spring. So excited to see him, see what he can do versus some of the best receivers in the country. If you guys enjoyed this content, as always, a like is humongous for us. So please leave us a like, subscribe to the channel. Those are huge. Again, cranky content for you guys. We really enjoy doing this stuff. We love interacting with you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you like your audio format on your phone, we're on both of those. Search Buckeye Scoop. You will find all of our podcasts there, ready to go. Subscribe to them and leave us a 5-star review. If you could do that, that's always huge. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Again, thank you guys again. Great night. Great day for the Bucs. Great job by Ryan Day and the recruiting staff and Tim Walton, Jim Knowles. We got a big one, a big fish in the portal. Great day for the Buckeyes. So that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I am going to get on BuckeyeScoop.com and be on that all night. If you guys want to join the #1 community for Ohio State support, football, recruiting, everything, especially inside information, which you guys really love to know what's really going on in the Woody Hayes, BuckeyeScoop.com is the spot. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.